Alright folks, let's get real about these two iconic superheroes, Spider-Man and Venom. We'll dive deep into why one's a timeless classic, and the other, well, let's just say he's more of a side character in his own movie. Who's the real deal? Let's find out. Okay, both of these guys got their powers in the most dramatic ways possible. What if I told you that you could become a real-life superhero just by getting bitten by a radioactive spider? It sounds crazy, but that's exactly what happened to Spider-Man. Think about it. You can climb walls, shoot webs, and even sense danger before it happens. Pretty sweet deal, right? Venom, on the other hand, gets possessed by a space parasite. It's like winning a free trip to Mars, but the hotel is actually a giant alien monster. You get free room and board, but you also have to deal with a roommate who's trying to eat your brains. It's like having a cool roommate who's also trying to take over your body, or sounds more like a toxic relationship.
You are a loser.
If you had to choose between getting bitten by a radioactive spider and being possessed by a space parasite, which would you pick? I'm going with the spider. At least you'd get free pest control. Picture Spider-Man as the class clown who is always cracking jokes and helping out his friends. He's the guy everyone wants to be around. Venom, well, is the moody loner who's always picking fights. He's the crazy bully guy you avoid in the hallway. If you had to choose between being friends with Spider-Man or Venom, who would you pick? To be honest, I mean, who wouldn't want to hang out with the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man's story is like a superhero coming-of-age story, but without the awkward teenage years. He learns about responsibility, friendship, and the importance of not letting your superpowers go to your head. It's a classic hero's journey that's relatable to audiences of all ages, even if you're not a superhero. Venom, on the other hand, is more like a grumpy teenager who just moved to a new town. He's all about anger, violence, and eating brains. It's as if your typical teenage angst was amplified 1,000 times over. He's a simple villain who's obsessed with causing chaos than being a hero. I think Venom just needs a hug. Maybe if someone showed him some love, he wouldn't be so angry all the time. Spider-Man's villains are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. You've got your classic bad guys like Dr. Octopus, who's the evil version of Tony Stark. Then you've got your crazy ones like Green Goblin, who's like a supervillain version of a toddler on a sugar high. But Venom? He is more like a bag of chips. He's salty, crunchy, and not very satisfying. His only goal is to eat Spider-Man, which is about as exciting as watching paint dry. Spider-Man has an extensive gallery of villains, but few have given him as much trouble over the years as Venom. The two have clashed countless times across countless storylines with varying results. But which of these spider-themed heroes is the true victor of their long history? Remember that scene in Spider-Man 2 where Dr. Octopus confronts Peter Parker on the train? It's like watching a real-life superhero battle but without the capes and tights. Doc Ock is a tragic figure who's been corrupted by his ambition. He's like a villain who's gone too far, but you can still see the good guy struggling to break free. Venom, on the other hand, is more like a mindless monster. It's like watching a toddler try to eat a whole pizza. It's funny, but it's also a little sad. So, the next time you're watching a Spider-Man movie, pay attention to the villains. They are the ones that make the movies so memorable. And remember, if you're ever faced with a choice between a complex, tragic villain like Dr. Octopus and a mindless monster like Venom, always choose the complex, tragic villain because Venom? I mean, what the hell was that? Spider-Man might not be the strongest or fastest guy in the Marvel Universe, but he's the smartest. Venom might be a brute force, but he's also a bit of a hothead. Spider-Man outsmarted Venom, leading him into traps and playing mind games. Remember that scene in Spider-Man 3 where Peter Parker turns up the volume on his iPod to maximum blast? It's like he's trying to win a noise pollution contest. And guess what? It works! That broody Venom is literally blown away by the sound. Spider-Man's powers are part of who he is. He's a natural-born superhero. Venom, on the other hand, is a parasite. If they split up, they're both powerless. That's how Spider-Man beat Venom the first time. He tricked the symbiote into leaving Brock and then trapped it. Even a smartass like Spider-Man knows that sometimes you need a little backup. That's why he's got a bunch of superhero friends. He can call on the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, or even Superman if he needs help. With friends like those, Venom doesn't stand a chance. He's a bully who picked the wrong guy to mess with, so Spider-Man might have won most of his fights against Venom. But let's be honest, he's been lucky. Most of his victories have been close calls, and let's not forget that time he had to call in the Avengers. That's like bringing in the cavalry when you're fighting a playground bully. And let's not forget that Spider-Man had to fake his death to get away from Venom in The Amazing Spider-Man. That's like saying, I'm not playing anymore. It shows that even Peter knows his chances of beating Venom in a straight fight are slim. Luckily, Venom's been more of an anti-hero lately. He's like the edgy friend who's always getting into trouble, but you still kinda like him. So Spider-Man's more likely to call on him as an ally than as an opponent. It's like a superhero version of frenemies. Also, if we talk about the script, don't get me wrong. The design and voice acting for Venom were top-notch, but the character itself? It was like a generic villain who stumbled into the wrong movie. The whole taking over New York thing was just boring. He's trying too hard to be scary. I mean, Venom works best when he's Eddie Brock. Eddie's a more interesting character than most villains. He's got a lot of depth and complexity. This version of Venom felt like a generic villain of the week. And let's talk about that initial reveal trailer. We were all hyped up to see Venom as this amazing threat. But when he finally showed up, he was just evil for the sake of being evil. It was like he was trying too hard to be scary. And don't even get me started on the Harry Osborn stuff. If the symbiote had that much effect on Peter after such a short time, why didn't it drive Harry mad when he was bonded with it for so much longer? It was just a plot hole waiting to happen. Insomniac should have let Eddie be in the first game. They could have fleshed him out more with the Devil's Breath story, had him investigating Roxxon in Miles' game, and built up that hatred towards Peter in both Spider-Men. That way, the new game would have had something tangible to work with. Speaking of Donny Cates' version of Venom, I'm not a fan. Seeing elements of that in this game was a major disappointment. I'm hoping Green Goblin will make up for it. Honestly, the Venom part of the story was so lazy, it felt like they just threw him in there as an afterthought. It's 2023 and we're still doing arena final boss fights? Come on guys, we need some innovation. I hate the whole no webs, just tendrils trend. It's like saying, let's take away what makes Spider-Man special and see if people still care. But in the end, Spider-Man came out on top. You get to fight Venom more than once, and at one point, you're chasing him through the city like a real-life cat-and-mouse game. Making Venom Harry instead of Eddie was a lazy move. It's like saying, oh, let's just make him a friend of Peter's so it's more emotional. That's a cheap trick. Not every villain needs to be a friend or mentor figure. And don't even get me started on the no-webs thing. It's like game developers are trying to ruin the character on purpose. It's like taking away Batman's cape or Superman's heat vision. Doesn't make any sense, right? Here's an example. Batman and Joker have never been friends. They're iconic enemies and their story works perfectly. Same with Superman and Lex Luthor, and Flash and Reverse Flash. You don't need a friendship to have a great hero-villain story. The game is still fun to play, but the story is like a limp noodle. This Venom sucked. He's just Venom in name and design. The game is like a 6/10 for me. That heal the world nonsense was so stupid, it's like they were trying to sell us a motivational poster. I hope they never adapt Venom like that again. It was worse than having a bad hair day. And please, for the love of all that is holy, give him black webs. No more tendrils only. It's boring. He's a spider. Make him look like a spider. So if you had to choose the brainy, snarky, heroic Spider-Man or the brain-eating, grumpy Venom, which one would you go for? Let me know in the comments below.